In the last video, we talked about how music lines and spaces line up with the white piano keys. Then, by using clef signs, we can tell which lines and spaces we're looking at. So, how are notes written if they should be played with the black keys? It's actually really easy, just by using a sharp symbol, which raises notes one key on the piano, a flat symbol, which lowers notes one key on the piano, and we will also use natural symbols for times when we need to cancel out a sharp or cancel out a flat. Now let's take a close look at an A. This is called A natural because it doesn't have any sharps or flats, but there's no need to use the natural signs normally unless the music is using sharps or flats that we want to cancel out. Putting a sharp in front of this A will turn it into A sharp, which is played one piano key higher on the black key called A sharp. You'll notice that sharps, naturals, and flats are put in front of notes on the left side of the note head, but when we write it out with letters, we put them on the right side after the letter. Putting a flat in front of the A will turn it into A flat, which is played one piano key lower on this black key called A flat. From now on, when we talk about moving from one piano key to the next higher or lower key, we will call it a half step. So, the distance from A natural to A sharp is a half step. The distance from A natural to A flat is also a half step. Can you guess what we would call the distance from A sharp to A flat? If you guessed a whole step, then you guessed right. A whole step is made up of two half steps put together. Then how far is it from A to G, or from A up to the B? Take a moment and think about it. Those notes are both whole steps because they have a black key in between them. It's easy to think they're half steps because the white keys A and B are next to each other at the white part of the key, but you always have to take the black keys into consideration when you're measuring half or whole steps. So now we'll add flats to the rest of the notes on the keyboard. Add a flat to B natural, and it becomes B flat, and the B flat key is a half step lower than B natural. Put a flat in front of a C and we get C flat, and this one's interesting because there's not a black key between B and C. So C flat is the same as B natural, which is a white key. And this brings up another fantastic fancy music word, enharmonic. Enharmonics are notes that have different names, but they have the same pitch or are played with the same piano key. C flat and B natural are enharmonics. It's like a person's first name and last name. With either name, you're still talking about the same person, but knowing when it's appropriate to use one name or the other depends on things like your relationship with the person or when and where you're talking to them. Sometimes it will make more sense to use one name for one note, and sometimes it'll make more sense to use the other name. Moving on with our flats, if we add a flat to D natural, then it becomes D flat and moves down a half step. Then E natural, if we add a flat to E, it becomes E flat and it moves down a half step to this black key. Add a flat to F natural, and you get F flat, and this is another flat that is on a white key, like we saw before between B and C. F flat and E natural are enharmonically the same note. Add a flat to G, and we get G flat on this black key right down here. So let's start again, and this time we'll add sharps to all of the notes. Remember, A natural was here, and A sharp was up a half step on this black key. This key was also called B flat earlier, you might remember. So B flat and A sharp are enharmonics. the same name for this one key. Going up to B, if we add a sharp to it, you'll notice again there's no black key between B and C, so B sharp and C are enharmonics. Add a sharp in front of C, and we get C sharp, which is this black key right here. Add a sharp to D, and that brings us up to this black key. Now if we add a sharp to E, again, we have a situation where there's no black key between E and F, so E sharp is on a white key, F natural. So F natural and E sharp are enharmonics. Then we can add a sharp to F to create F sharp 1/2 step higher. Adding a sharp to G gives us G sharp 1/2 step higher on its black key. So we can use notes' natural names, their sharp names, and their flat names. Notice that every pitch, that's every piano key, has 2 enharmonic names except for G natural and A natural. Notes on the piano work just like the notes on every other instrument, but it's easier to see some of these concepts on the piano. So if note names ever get confusing, it's always a good idea to review how they work on a piano.